let's get into the other side of the Super Bowl, which would be the Eagles. They're chasing their second in franchise history. It's also the second time Philly will face the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in the last 3 years, but this time they have another weapon. What a season for Saquon Barkley. He led the NFL in rushing yards this season and enters the Super Bowl with just 30 yards away from passing Terrell Davis for the most rushing yards in a single season, including the playoffs in NFL history. All right, Jeff, is Saquon already an all-time great running back?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think, listen, he's had some injuries that affected his long-term, but when you think about what he's capable of doing, playing for your Giants.
Yeah, don't even talk about that.
Hey, the deck's been stacked against him.
I don't know if they're actually my Giants.
You know what I mean?
Anymore. We might have broke up.
The deck has been stacked against him, and this guy is what you're finally seeing is what he would have looked like had he been given the same ability in front of him, quarterbacks, all those things. When you watch how defenses played the Giants, they will load up and just try to stop Saquon and then force Daniel Jones or whatever the quarterback was at the moment to go beat them. I don't care how good you are. It's very difficult. Saquon Barkley is a special human. And what you've seen him do this season, I think would have been replicated many times over had he been in a situation like he has found himself in Philly.
So immediately when I saw this question, I said, absolutely. And then I took a step back because I'm like, okay, let's not do what we always do, which is be prisoners of the moment. And then I started thinking, in my mind he is. Listen to Andy Reid. Andy Reid said this week they have one of the best running backs ever. That is Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches ever, saying that about Saquon. In my opinion, yes, but I think what is the criteria? Because when you start going down the list of greatest, if you pull out the Mad Dog Almanac of greatest ever, you're talking about Jim Brown and Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and Emmitt Smith and Eric Dickerson and all these guys. I don't know where to put him in there, and I don't want to say, is he better than Walter Payton? Like all these names. I don't know. I think in this, what we're seeing today's football, yes, Saquon is. But I'm not going to argue against a historian like Mad Dog if he's going to come out and name names from the 1950s until now. Like, I think it's really the criteria. If you look at his numbers, because of the Giants, I keep pointing to you, Molly. Like, because, you know, like you put his numbers against other people, it's not going to look as impressive.
No,
but
for
when you watch him on the field, when you watch him hurdling a defender backwards, that tells you we have not seen something like this. But again, I defer to the historian of the show.
Well, I give you credit. You only forgot Hugh McElhenny, but other than that, your historical thing with the running backs was absolutely tremendous. Let's take it easy on Saquon Barkley. He's had four. Laugh, Jeff, the hater. He's had four Hall of Fame years. He had he's had three with the Giants, and he had in 2022, then he had his rookie year and another year at the Giants, and this year he's had four. Jim Brown led the league in rushing from 57 to 64. 65. I mean, throw in the idea that you're talking about a guy like Peyton. I think Derrick Henry's had a better career at this moment than Barkley's had, and I love Derrick Henry, and Barkley's special, don't get me wrong. But if you look at their careers to date, currently, Henry's had a better career. So to say that Barkley is one of the great running backs in the history of, have you heard of Gale Sayers and O.J. Simpson and Marcus Allen? And there's a million guys. John Riggins. There's Emmett, you mentioned, Sanders. There's 15, 20 guys we can bring up. I can't put him on that level yet. He's only had the 4 years. Have 7 or 8, 9 years. Then we talk about one of the great running backs of all time.
Yeah, I will say this. I think part of that for me is how defenses have to play a guy. So I don't always look at the numbers. Like, I do this with defensive players as well, that people are like, I'll say, hey, that guy was a Hall of Famer, right? Like the way he played, but because we had to defend, we had to defend him differently. I think Saquon is a guy you have to defend differently. And I said, I understand the point on the numbers, and you're totally right. He has not gotten himself to that conversation. And both of you make great points about the all-times. I'm just telling you, with the ball in his hands, whether you're throwing it to him, he's got great hands catching it. He's explosive. He can take the thing yard. not every running back can do all things. I think he's one of those guys who can do all things extremely well, but he does have to be in the right situation. I would not compare him to the Barry Sanders of the world, like to what you're saying, but I would say he gets up there for me for the Marcus Allens, for the Derrick Henrys, because he's a different player. He just has not, unfortunately, he hasn't been in a stable situation in New York that gives him the opportunity to showcase his talents year in and year out.
So, Doggy, what do you think about Andy Reid saying that the Eagles have a running back who is one of the best in history? That doesn't carry any weight to you as well?
Well, what is Reid going to say? You know, he's an okay back. Of course he's going to say that. And Reid always is. Reid is a great guy. He's always pepping up his opponent.
No. You can say, listen, you don't have to say that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. You can be like, she's pretty. Like you don't have to say he's one of the greatest of all time if you just think he's a good back. I don't think Andy Reid is in the game of hyperbole.
I don't know. Before Super Bowl, I think
I agree with that, but I don't know Andy Reid well. I don't know Andy Reid well enough if he can break down Jim Brown or Jim Taylor or Paul Hornung's career. I mean, he might just be one of those who knows the football from 1995 on. I don't know if he can go back 50, 60 years and tell me about Steve Van Buren, but he's not on. Listen, I understand what Jeff says. He's had an incredible year. I get it. But, I mean, to put him up there with some of these legendary, year after year, tenure, you can't. He's had 4 seasons. It's not
you know
fair.
what?
Is Derrick Henry's career better, would you say?
Oh, yeah, his career overall is better.
Yes.
And
he's longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I respect the guys who have done it 10 years, right? Like the 8, the 10 years, like you're saying, that you stack season because the beating on their body that they continue to subject themselves to and continue to get better and play those numbers. So if Saquon backs it up next year, and runs this thing back and has a similar style year, not exactly, but has a good year, then I think, you're probably right on that side.
If he had broken Eric Dickerson's record.
Oh, that's the most disgusting thing. And
I'm so mad about it still. I know.
I'm all
I'm
physically.
with you.
I'm
with you. That was foul. And now he can break TD's record, though.
That would be sweet.
All right, let me ask you this. Better story, Mahomes three-peat or Saquon winning his first Super Bowl, obviously with the whole Giants backdrop and how they dogged him?
To me, it is Saquon and Jalen winning a Super Bowl, because it's not the Chiefs' fatigue factor for me. It is, we already know how great Patrick Mahomes is. He can get better. Clearly, he can win more Super Bowls, but we already have established he's one of the best we've ever seen. But when we're literally debating Saquon Barkley. Is he one of the greatest running backs? And each week of this season, up until heading into the Super Bowl, we have given this guy so much praise and saying, we haven't seen this. He's tremendous. And yet his career is still sort of hampered by those years spent in New York. And now he's finally at a position where he has the offensive line he's always needed. He's got the roster that he's needed, the opportunity to get and win a Super Bowl. And also with Jalen Hurts, listen, say what you want. The questions about him and whether he is the weak link here, whether he can lead this team to a Super Bowl. The guy was just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago without Saquon Barkley. Yeah. And for the Eagles to kind of careen last year and to come back in this moment, those two winning it on this stage against that guy, there's no better story than that.
Made a strong
I'll
case.
tell you, first off, give Hurts tremendous credit for that 4th and 5 play at 14-12. That was the best. That was the biggest play of that game. That was a great pass. I'm with Kimberly completely. I love Hurts. He doesn't say anything. He does what he's supposed to do. He's got to deal with those receivers that want the ball a lot. 2 years ago, he played great in the game. I'm a big Hurts fan. But listen, Bart Starr won 3. I don't care what anybody says. They would have beaten the 65 Bills. And I am chiefed out. But I'm going to be fair. I think Mahomes winning 3 straight, getting a little closer to Brady would be is a bigger story than a running back and a young quarterback who has a chance to win a couple Super Bowls down the road. So I don't love either story, to be honest with you. We all know I'm the hater of all time. I am sick and tired of the Chiefs, as is America. As is America, by the way. I deal with them every day. Nobody likes this game. But as far as the historical aspect of it is concerned, I'd have to say Jeffrey myself. I'd have to say Mahomes 3 in a row.
He's excited to see Taylor Swift shots. He wants as many Taylor Swift shots in the box that he can.
The sweet shots.
That he can.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you agree with him though? Is this like a boring Super Bowl? Is this not a
I do not think it's a boring. I'll be honest with you. This is probably one of my favorite Super Bowls.
Really?
Yeah, I'm super excited. But I'll say it this way. This is like trying to pick between your kids. Like I love the redemption story of the Eagles.
Yep.
Like Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, all those Eagles that endured just people bashing them last year, and when they go 2-2, everybody's off the bandwagon. I love that story. Like, I get fired up. Saquon coming from the Giants, the whole backstory of the video of them sending them off.
Yep.
Yeah, the John. I love it, right? And then I flip over and I go, the Chiefs, a three-peat. It's never been done.
Yeah.
Like, no. So how could that not be the greatest story in NFL history? Like, and by the way, by one of the greatest humans, like Patrick Mahomes, man, all he's done has been a class act to every team. I mean, he is a team guy. He loves his fellow teammates. He loves the city he plays, loves his head coach. Like, he could not be. When he steps to the microphone, I want to go play again. Like, he's just that guy. So I love both stories. I do tip the cap to the three-peat just because it's never been done.
I think on the surface, it's sort of like, we just watched this. However, how the Eagles got there, completely different roster.
Agreed.
Again, with the Chiefs, completely different team. And we talk about the Chiefs year in and year out. It may be boring, but that's because they have methodically worked and prepared and gotten better, figured out, okay, we can't win that way we won last year. Okay, who's here? How do we maximize this potential? What can we do? How can we make the defensive strength? That is impressive.
No doubt. And let me say this about the Eagles, too. The Eagles. Jason Kelce gone, right? Fletcher Cox gone. Brandon Graham.
The big four,
those guys, that was the captains and, the voice of the Eagles locker room for all those years. Those guys are all, Graham because he was in,
all of these.
The core is gone, and here comes some new blood in, and then Saquon comes in. Like, how cool. So it's totally different for me than 2 years ago Super Bowl. This is I'm fired up for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
It's going to be good.